Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Olagunjo Molabake, and this is for the benefit of those that have not met me before or are meeting me for the first time. My name is Omolabake Olagunjo. I work with the Creative Economy Practice at CC Hub as a senior program associate. And we are welcome to the Online Fashionomics Africa Accelerator Program. And today we'll be covering the topic, conducting market research. Kindly note that translations are available in English, French, Portuguese, and Arabic. We request that you look for the round interpretation icon at the bottom of the screen to select your preferred language. Welcome to today's session, and while you wait, please turn on your cameras if you can, and share in the chat what you're looking to gain out of today's session. Please share in the chat box your expectations, as we would like to read from you. Let me also recap our ground rules. I know that we are familiar with this, but for the sake of emphasis, I'll do it again. Switch on camera if you can. If you are in a very cozy or a very nice environment, you can switch on your camera. But if you are in a very noisy place, you can do well to switch off if you so wish. Use the chat box to ask questions. We are mainly using the chat box for communication. So if you have any questions or you have any comment whatsoever, or you want to escalate anything, please use the chat box to communicate with us. What we discuss here stays here. Your microphone is muted, like we all know that from the onset. So use the chat box to communicate with us, and we'll do well to respond to you. Participate actively, give space for others to participate. Please ensure that your Zoom name matches your registration name. We cannot overemphasize this. Please ensure that your Zoom name matches your registration name. And this is for the purpose of taking attendance. We take attendance at the end of every session. And if your Zoom name is not properly named, I'm afraid you'll be marked absent. So please ensure that you double check your Zoom name at the beginning of every class, or be it in the middle or towards the tail end of every class, to be sure that your Zoom name matches your registration name and it's correct. Please note, it's your name, not your brand name or your business name. If you use your business name, I'm afraid we'll mark you absent. So ensure that it's your name that is reflecting on your Zoom name. Today's session is going to last for 1 hour, 30 minutes, and the overview of today's session is objective of research, types of research, the research types, and report writing. I'd like to introduce to you our facilitator for today. Our facilitator for today is George Bush. I'm sure some persons will be wondering, no, not the former president of America, but yes, an amazing person if you must know. George Bush is a research analyst with over 10 years experience in questionnaire design, qualitative and quantitative research, statistical data analysis, charting, report writing, and strategic planning. Currently, George Bush is a senior research associate at CC Hub, the design lab practice of CC Hub, and he is resident in the Rwandan office. He's also a research manager with Nelson IQ. Without further ado, I'd like to present to you George Bush, our facilitator for today. George, it's nice to have you on today's call. Thank you for obliging us, and thank you for agreeing to facilitate this session. Good afternoon, George. You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Omolabake. Confirm if you can hear me. Can you hear me, Omolabake? Just confirm.
Yes, George, I can hear you. Please, participants, if you can hear George, please kindly indicate in the chat box so that he knows that he's communicating with everyone. Yes. Okay, I can see comments. Yes, they can hear you. Thank you very much, George.
Okay, thanks. We can go ahead now. Just need that confirmation. So today's session, as introduced by my colleague Omolabake, we're going to look at research, and just from there, we're going to look at what is research, define research, look at the objectives, why we do research or why we conduct research, the different type of research, and go through the research process in itself, like what are the steps that one need to undertake when you're conducting a research. Okay, so by just start looking at understanding or trying to define research is basically a scientific, I would say a scientific and a systematic search for relevant information on a specific topic. This can be done either if you want to gain new knowledge in an area, or even you want to investigate or further investigate, trying to look for facts in areas that have been studied previously by others. So it's a careful investigation of inquiry, especially through search of new facts or even in a branch of knowledge. So there are two reasons why somebody would conduct research. One is to get new knowledge. One is to build on already existing knowledge, or even try to check out more facts, discover more facts around existing knowledge. So the objectives of, in this case, of fashion research, the end goal of fashion research, or specifically, we want to look at market research. So first, I want us to define what market research is. In a marketing context or market research, it's where we gather or record and analyze facts relating to exchange of goods and services between a supplier and a customer in order to solve a particular problem. So market research comes in the context of a business scenario where we have both a supplier or maybe a buyer and a seller of good. And in that context is where we want to analyze facts relating to maybe consumer behavior in the process of exchanging goods and services. So with specific to fashion research, the end goal of fashion market research is to gain that sufficient information to make informed decisions about your business as an entrepreneur, so that at the end of the day, you can thrive in the business environment. So as just to reiterate, market research enables us to gain insight into consumer spending, collect consumer information about their opinions, the interaction with the different products, or even with our products, and also understand from a social market, from a marketing perspective. You know, for example, social media is very big when it comes to modern marketing campaigns. How do they influence our consumers in terms of their purchasing behaviors and their decision-making processes? Why might a fashion or a textile or a business conduct market research? One is to identify new markets. The reason why, as entrepreneurs or even as a business, if you want to conduct a market research, is, for example, you want to identify a new target market, you want to grow your business, understand how your customer feel about your business or your product or even your brand. Consumer feedback is very critical in terms of ensuring constant growth of the business. How do they feel about, what are their opinions about the product or about the services that they interact with from the services or from the products that resell them. Also, one is to understand how existing or potential customers spend money on fashion or even on products. Also to understand the effectiveness of marketing campaigns and other initiatives that the business is running, because a lot of resources is usually spent in terms of communication to potential and even to existing customers. And it's always good to monitor and feedback. Is it worth the spend, that whichever area you're spending in terms of marketing campaign, are you getting your value for money from a research perspective? So maybe I'll just go to a question to all of us, whether in our own business setting, have we ever done any form of market research? Not maybe just before even setting up or even as you're running our business. Have we ever conducted any market research before? And what were we trying to find out? We can type this in chat box. I can see most of the response, yes, the people have done. Debayo is saying yes. No, I can see Tony saying yes, he has done some business, market research. Jacobina has also responded yes, but also a number of us have said no. Yeah, so quite a number of us have said no. So maybe just to introduce what, the different forms of market research. In a broader picture, market research is usually either qualitative or quantitative when you're conducting them. The broader sense is, or the broader type of research, either qualitative or quantitative. Qualitative research is basically to explore, while quantitative is to quantify. So, for example, if you want to understand the attitudes, the perception, the motivations the barriers to why consumers would prefer a certain product, most likely in that case, exploring, I mean, the best way to get that information or that exploration is through qualitative. And even when you want to profile your potential or maybe your customers in terms of their aspirations, their need, their behaviors, their lifestyle generally. So that we do through qualitative research. It gives us, I mean, we are able to explore this through qualitative research. And mostly when doing qualitative exploration, the main questions we ask are who, the whys, the when, the wheres, and the whats. The 5 W's come in really in handy. Quantitative, on the other hand, is to provide the actual statistics and indices and measure. For example, if I'm to give an example, within, let's say, the fashion industry, we say that my clients are the top end, or maybe I serve most of my clientele a high-end type of client. So in that case, quantitative will tell me to what extent. If they are high-end, out of the clients that I serve, how many form maybe the high-end client? Are they 40%? Are they 70%? What part of my business revenue are they driving? Are they driving 70% of my revenue, or are they driving maybe 20% of my revenue? So the 20% part is where the quantitative parts come in terms of giving that index, and usually presented in numericals. So this is measured through mathematical models to enable us compute and come up with numbers. Next slide, sorry. So qualitative research, as I'd said, it basically explore, it explains, it enables us to generate and refine and even describe phenomena, while quantitative measures, it enables us to analyze, it even enables us to also estimate and predict, and also track our performance over time. You can use quantitative maybe to track your sales, to track your revenue, to track maybe your market share as a business over time, while qualitative would enable you to explain who your clients are. Are they the high end? Are you serving the bottom of the pyramid? Are you just serving maybe the middle? So what are the special characteristics, or what are the profile of these people? Are they family oriented? Are they the Gen Z? So you see, in terms of explaining those aspects, qualitative exploration really comes up in handy. And one thing to say is qualitative is used to back up quantitative indices. The skeleton part of most data is usually quantitative, and I'll say the fleshy part would be the qualitative, because it now enables you to give life to whatever, or maybe to your consumer, in terms if you're trying to explain that aspect, an aspect about them. So just to summarize, when you're doing qualitative exploration, we answer the question whys, the hows, the when, the wheres. In qualitative exploration, we find that usually you use formative phrases, and it's very rich in data. So even in terms of when you're analyzing that data, it really takes a lot of time, because most of qualitative data is something that it really takes really rich and really time consuming in terms of trying to analyze. And there's no specific design. Most of the design when using qualitative research, it unfolds as you conduct the research, because you get to learn, you get to discover as you're doing it. And one thing is, as a researcher, when conducting qualitative, you're actually the instrument. But when you look at quantitative measures, this is where we answer the question, or we ask the question, how many? We tend to look for the numbers and the indices. And usually we have an hypothesis that we're already testing, which probably we formed during the qualitative phase. When you're conducting quantitative measures, we find that your data, in terms of data collection, is very efficient, because you already have the context, you understand the direction you want to take because you already have defined your hypothesis. Even the design of the research, whether you're taking a cross-sectional survey, a longitudinal survey, you've already decided on it. And usually there are various tools. It might be a questionnaire, it might be a survey that you've sent online, it might be an in-person interview that you're conducting, but there's a structured questionnaire that you're using to fill. It might also be a survey you've sent to your potential respondents so that they fill it at their own convenience. So it's very well structured and very well defined, even in terms of how you conduct quantitative research. So in a nutshell, or maybe just to look at the rationale, what does it entail in terms of a quantitative approach? Quantitative studies deal with large numbers in most incidents. For example, you're dealing with a large population either within a country. And when it comes to the time when you want to make sense and analyze your data, there is a lot of utilization of mathematical formulae and also statistical techniques in order to make sense out of the data that you're collecting. It also, just to reiterate, allow us to measure in numerical form certain aspects of human behaviors. For example, if you're looking at motivation, why customers would prefer a certain brand to other. So quantitative allow us to measure that. It also, in most cases, one way, the easiest way that you would conduct quantitative research is face-to-face interviews, either with your general public who you can draw a sample of your potential or even your current customers or consumers of your product. So in summary, it relatively involves a large sample, and we use structured questionnaires that sometimes are pre-coded to give that structure. There's utilization of statistical and mathematical formulas in terms of when analyzing the results and trying to make sense out of them. And mostly in modern times, there's a lot of computing that is involved in terms of making sense out of quantitative data. So what about qualitative? In terms of qualitative approach, it's mostly about the consumer psychology. So it involves studying human behavior regarding their buying patterns, customs, their preference in relation to the products probably they're using, and including their reaction and preferences, maybe to communication, even to packaging, and even to marketing campaigns. So one thing that is said that in most incidences, whenever consumers, even I myself sometimes, when making certain decisions when it comes to the products that I'm using, it's never about rational. The rational part takes 20%, but mostly it's about my interaction or maybe my subconscious part that make that decision. For example, when it comes to the kind of shoes that I like or the kind of cologne that I wear, it's never about the ration that is expensive. It's about the design, it's about the appeal, it's about probably the way people would associate me with a certain brand that I interact with. So that is why qualitative research is very important, or it really involves the study of the human psychology, because when it comes to making purchasing decision, as much as there's the rational part of human nature that make the decision, most of the time is never about the rational part. It's about that subconscious mind that is responsible for making that decision. That is where qualitative research comes in and is very critical in terms of helping us to collect information about human behaviors. Just thinking about business, maybe in fashion and textile industry, what type of market research should you use and what type of research problem? Looking at both the qualitative and the quantitative that we've talked about, if you are to conduct a research, which one would you think in your own setting is the most ideal? We can start, we can type, the feedback in the chat. I'm just trying to look at the feedback. Oh, sorry. Yes, I can see qualitative to determine brand perception. That's from Blessings. Anybody else? We can just type our feedback. Most of us are siding with qualitative research. I can see also IDO is agreeing that qualitative would be the most appropriate in this setting. Yes, qualitative market research, I'm seeing from Moji and also from Caroline. So most of us find it easier in our setting to agree that qualitative research would be the most ideal. But I can tell you, quantitative, after always doing qualitative research, at the end of the day, we always need to measure to have the exact numbers. And that is why both the qualitative and quantitative comes in. I can see Binta has agreed that both qualitative and quantitative would work for her. Yeah, so let me just go to the next, which would be in terms of market research survey tools. So now we are looking at the tools that we can use in conducting both the qualitative and the quantitative. So one key tool that I even mentioned is survey. So survey is a quantitative method for collecting information from a pool of respondents by asking multiple survey questions or asking the multiple questions. So we can either do this in person, where you mostly in a setting is where you find that you can either come in with a printed questionnaire that you fill, the enumerator fill as it talks to the respondent. In some situation, we can send it directly, maybe via an online link where our potential or our customers or our respondent can fill it at their own convenience. Another is, interviews where it's conversation where questions are asked to elicit information. We have focus group discussion. So focus group discussion is basically where a group involving a small number, usually 6 to 8, that have a lot of similarities are brought together and ask questions around maybe to study their perception, their attitude, their opinion, even their beliefs regarding a specific topic. The beauty of focus group discussion is you are able to use some other research techniques that would enable you not to directly ask questions. For example, let me say you're studying about a brand. You can use one of the qualitative research tools that you can use is, for example, something called brand party. So brand party simply is where you bring people who are probably using a product. They're using the same product and you ask them, imagine maybe we are having a party about clothing or textile type, or maybe let me say the previous example that I use is for example colognes that you're wearing. So in this party, there's Versace, there are all these different cologne. Whom do you think is the MC? Whom do you think is the get crusher? Whom would you think is the fly chick? And for the reason that they'll be telling me, you'd ask them, why do you think, for example, Versace would be the MC or would be the guest of honor? And from that, they're able to explore and tell us the reason why they think they associate a certain brand to certain aspect. So that is really beautiful when it comes to focus group discussion, because through certain techniques like brand personification or brand party, you are able to build and give life to a brand and actually understand them better. Field research is also a method of data collection that aims to observe, interact, and understand people while they're in their natural setting. Another term we use for this is, we call it ethnography, where you actually just go into the setting of the consumers and observe how they do or how they use their product. Let me give a different example, which is not really related to textile or to fashion industry. One thing, for example, in the Kenyan market, something that I observed in past research that we conducted, past ethnography study that we did, is, for example, around the use of toothpaste. So we were trying to study how people use toothpaste when they're brushing their teeth. So we noticed that some will take the toothpaste and still add salt to it before brushing their teeth. Some would add use charcoal to brush their teeth, then top up with a toothpaste for the minty, fresh feeling in their mouth. So through that observation, if you were to just bring these people maybe in a focus group discussion and ask them, how do you use your toothpaste? The feedback they'll tell you is, yeah, I usually just take my toothbrush, take a small amount of the toothpaste and maybe take a cup of water, or maybe go to my sink and brush my teeth regularly, maybe in the morning or in the evening before I go to bed or before I go to work. But if through ethnographic studies, we were able to understand, we were able to observe in their natural environment how they actually go about the process of adding salt. So through that ethnography, new variants of toothpaste were able to be, to be introduced into the market that has salt or even that has charcoal. So ethnography is also a very, very rich in research method that as researchers, or even if you want to conduct research in your business, you can utilize. Another is mole interception, where we actually, this we also call it, besides mole interception, we also call it, I'm forgetting the name, I'll just remember. Where you actually intercept these people in the setting where they are buying. And let's say after they've purchased a product or after they've experienced a service, you actually intercept them in that setting and ask them questions to understand how they interact, how they interacted with that particular product, with a certain product, or with a certain service that they've used. There's also user testing or product testing, where in this case, you either give a product to a user, they use it, or they test it for some time, after which it's mostly, in this case, is a prototype that you're developing. They have an experience with the prototype, after which then you collect either feedback, you can either bring them together, you can either go to them and use a survey kind of setup or survey kind of way of collecting that information, or you can use even you can send them a feedback form that they fill over time as they're using the product. So these are just some of the few market research tools that we can use in terms of when we need to collect data to analyze for the different problems that we want to solve in our businesses. So in terms of designing research, as I said, through the research process, it's a process that there are some key main steps that we go through. The first one is, before conducting a research, you need to understand the problem that you want to solve. It can either be a problem that you're having in our businesses that we need to solve. Once we define what the problem that we have, we then need to do what we call a literature review. So literature review is just to help us understand if in the past there are people who've probably experienced the same problem that we're experiencing and how they've gone through it and even tried to solve it. So we basically go through past records to review and check if in the past is it something that have been studied, and are there possible solutions that have been developed or that have been recorded about the same experience that you're going through? From there, we can formulate a hypothesis based on the problem that we have. Sometimes even just at literature review level, we are able to solve the research problems that we have. We are able to see how in different setups they were in the past people were able to solve them. But in case that we still feel that from literature review we are not able to solve the problem that we have, then we can formulate an hypothesis. So this is basically a statement about the problem that we're having that can either be true or not. From the hypothesis, then we design our research. It can either be qualitative or quantitative to understand or to collect more information. That then we go to step 5 in terms of how do we collect that information. Then to step 6 in terms of now analyzing. So data collection, we just discussed some of the method of data collection that is on number 5. It can either be through focus group, it can either be through surveys, it can either be through links that we are even sending. So I was just trying to go back. Yes, it can either be through surveys, field research, more link intercepts, or even user testing. Then we go to, in terms of analyzing that data. Once we do the analysis, of course, at the analysis stage, there are different methodologies for analyzing both qualitative and quantitative, but in most cases, it can be a simple tool as using Excel when analyzing your quantitative data. And then how do you now make sense out of the data that we have collected? So just to give more details in terms of formulating research, when formulating a research problem, we need to very clear, we need much clarity as possible in terms of the problem area that we need to investigate. So clearly formulate all the fundamentals idea of your investigation and mention all the possible challenges and what the research is able to address and why. The next step that we discuss is about literature review or collecting past information about the problem area that we are facing. So we need to search and evaluate any available literature that has been recorded in the past, and formulate research problem on it. Also, we need to look at documents that already exist, what is known, and if what is known is not sufficient, that is now when we go to the next step of formulating hypothesis. So one thing when you're formulating hypothesis, which is simply a statement about the problem that you're experiencing, it needs to be very much clear. It needs to be also very clearly stated in order to have clarity in terms of the area that you're going to conduct your study on. Then preparing the research design and determining the sample. You need also to be clear in terms of how you're going to select your sample. Are you going to randomly pick people maybe in a mall? Are you going to do a household approach by maybe going to a residential area and have to sample within those residents in order to speak to people? So are you going to use a household approach kind of? Are you going to send probably a survey to people that you already have a contact database? So you need to design, you really need to think about how you're going to sample the potential people, the potential respondents that you need to collect information from. Sorry, my computer is behaving erratically to guide us through. Then in terms of collecting the data, you also as a researcher need to collect, you really need to know the type of the type of research or the type of tool that you're going to collect your information on. If, for example, the survey type is what you've decided on, There are other things that you need to consider, like your resource, the available time, the desired degree of accuracy that you need to take, the desired degree of precision in terms of the data that you're collecting. So for example, if you don't have a big financial muscle to conduct a research, you might as well as decide, maybe let me just do an intercept or sample a few of my customers by just having a 10-minute chat with them in terms of the experiences about my product. If you have the muscle now to conduct a big survey, you can actually go through even talking to every customer that comes into your shop, or maybe come into your business by reaching out to them, or even sending enumerators to their location, maybe to speak to them. So there are a number of things that you really need to consider. Something like time, do you just need a quick feedback? Or do you have all the time to collect this information, even collect information about how your competitors are performing vis-a-vis how you're performing, and compare that to the larger market? So it depends on a lot of parameters in terms of deciding the data collection tool that you need to use. In terms of the analysis, of course, as I've said, they are both the quantitative and the qualitative aspect of the data. So this depends on how you need your data to be manipulated, and also how you collected your data. If it is qualitative, how do you analyze the qualitative tools that are used in qualitative analysis, and also a simple tool as grading feedback. Yeah, once you have maybe identify similar profile of the respondents, what are those key themes that are coming out when they are giving you their responses? It can be as quick as picking in on key themes that your feedback are composed around. Then making sense or interpreting your data. What does it mean to your business at the end of the day? After probably doing a market research, and I say my market share is 20%. What does it mean to my business? Does it mean that the business is growing? Does it mean that in the near future, I have a potential of even introducing a new variant? This 20% market share that I have, what profile of consumers do the 20% market share that I have belong to? If maybe they are the younger generation, or maybe the older generation, is there a product that I can introduce that would enable me even to grow my business, a new variant within what I'm offering? So at the end of the day, the big question is, what does it mean to the business in terms of the numbers that you're generating? What does it mean at the end of the day to the business? That's the biggest question that at the end of the day you need to ask ourselves. So, how to conduct fashion market research? So how would we conduct fashion market research? So we can either do a primary or secondary research. The good thing is, by both using primary and secondary research, you can determine several key factors about your target market and various segments. So one thing we can look at is the spend in terms of our customers. How much do they spend on fashion? Where and how would we target, where and how your target market discover your brand? So how do they learn about us? Is it online? Is it through social media? Is it through print media? So what triggers them in terms of their shopping pattern? Is it like festivity, like right now we are in Ramadan, and also we are approaching Easter? So how these seasonalities or festivity season influences how consumers spend on our product, or even how they make their purchasing decision? If you need to focus in future spending patterns about our customers, how do we do that? So basically, primary and secondary research would really support us when it comes to that. And also doing just a predictive analysis around the demand for our products, So we can either do this through the primary research, where we are the primary researchers by collecting first-hand information, or secondary research, where we refer to past materials and past work that has been done in that particular area of interest that is over, that particular area of interest to us. So just to mention some of the secondary research sources, we have, for example, marketresearch.com, where market research reports and industry analysis are being posted or being published. We have McKinsey State of Fashion and Annual Report. They also publish a lot of fashion market research. We have Statistica.com, which is just a global apparel for market statistics and facts. We have NPD Fashion Trend and Tracker. We have the Business of Fashion, and also KPMG Sustainable Fashion Report. So these are just but a few of the areas where we can explore in terms of secondary resources for reports and even for past market research work on fashion. So the final word is you can conduct simple research on your own, but if complex, for example, when you need to do quantitative analysis, usually the services of an expert in research is quite necessary. But for top quick view, we can always do that. If you have the muscle, the financial muscle, both in terms of time, in terms of the level of insight that you need, it's always advisable that if you need in-depth analysis, in-depth understanding of the market, and you're able to actually support that in terms of the financial need, then the services of an experienced researcher is actually very critical. So this is just but additional case studies and resources that you can explore at our own time in terms of fashion, in terms of research materials on fashion. So we have emerging markets facts, we have fast fashion in Africa, why worn clothes are thriving in Africa, and the secret of Zara's success. That's a culture on customer co-creation. Yes, and I think that will mark the end of the presentation. Do we have any questions and comments?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, George, for the session. If you have questions, comments, please drop them in the chat box, and George will be more than happy to answer your questions.
So I can see the first question from Blessings. What are the cheapest and most effective method to conduct qualitative research? This depends on the problem that you need to investigate. It can be as quick as exploiting already the customers that you have. Like we said, mall intercepting, you can do exit interviews. Once you have a customer come in, and you can just ask them, how's been your experience probably using our product, or even whenever you shop with us. It can be as quick as that, and just one or two questions about the experience with your product. What others? I'm seeing Sariaka. How should we build our customer persona from studies on the other way? So if I get this right, building customer persona is more of what you call segmentation. So when conducting segmentation studies, for example, it's usually really kind of thorough and involves a lot of both quantitative and qualitative aspects. For example, one thing is you first need to develop the profile of the customers that you're serving. Let me give an example of this is a different market altogether. In the energy industry, for example, in Kenya, where we wanted to understand the users of electricity for the utility company, that is Kenya Power, to meet the needs better. So broadly, Kenya Power categorized their customers into commercial users, domestic customers. It was domestic and commercial users. So within commercial, they had the large commercial, which are like the big industries, for example, manufacturers. Then we had the small and medium industries, and then the small commercial. Domestic were just domestic. So when they sought our services as market research, in terms of understanding domestic users, we needed to first, for example, profile them or build a persona around them. And we did a qualitative study. So one thing interesting is if we went to users in low-income communities or maybe informal settlements, for them, electricity is just for lighting, nothing else. And probably they just use it in the evening when they need to light up, maybe for cooking or even when the children are studying. Then there are these high-end kind of users, I'd say the high-profile users, where, for example, their life is powered by electricity. Take, for example, somebody who is working in a bank service. In the morning, he has to iron his shirt before he goes to work, make a toast of bread using electricity. When he comes in the morning, he has to send an email. Probably there's another tech guy, he's listening to music, he has a computer on, he has the radio on, he has to power his routers on. So it depends a lot on electricity. So if you look at these high profile users, if electricity, for example, they have a blackout for 5 minutes or even 10 minutes, they'll really go online ranting about the service provider of electricity compared to that person in the informal settlement who just needs electricity for a few minutes in the evening to light up, maybe when they're cooking. So we were able to understand the needs and profile and build a persona around how these people interact with electricity. And from there, the supplier knew how to even meet the needs of these people. For example, that person who is in, they started in terms of even pricing. For the person in the informal settlement, they don't need a three-phase electricity. They just need a single wire drop. So at that time, they were being charged constantly, $70,000, probably $1,000 to connect you to electricity. When your bill is like less than $1 a month, yeah? So you don't need to spend $1,000 for connection when your usage or your consumerism at the end of the month, your bill is just $1, for example. Yet, there's this person who uses it a lot. So how do they arrive at a pricing point that meets the need of all these people? So through that profiling or through that customer persona study that we were able to conduct, we were able to meet the need of each of the individual segments, both at the domestic and also at the commercial level. I'm hoping that, Sariaka, I'm able to answer your question. Veronica, can you use Google Forms to conduct survey, baseline, online, and be effective? Yes. Google Forms are very effective and quick tool that we can quickly use, especially if you have a database of the potential respondents. If you have their email addresses and your questions are concise and very precise, I always advise to use online. And if you're designing an online survey, make sure it's 1 minute. It doesn't take more than 5 questions, because the moment the question start taking long, I'm very sure all of us have had an experience where we've been asked to fill a survey online. And if it is more than 5 questions, the completion rate it's usually very low, or even people tend to drop a lot if it takes long. So whenever we're using online forms like Google, there are many other forms that you can use in terms of scripting your question. Always just make sure that it's very short, precise, and concise for you to be effective while using that as a methodology for collecting data. I hope that answers your question, Veronica. I'm seeing Jacobina. Is it always important to do a market research for every new product service you add to the business, or can you add a new product service based on constant request of the same service from the customer? It's always quite important to make informed decision, especially in a business environment, and especially in a case where the resources that are involved in terms of even introducing a new product are huge. So before investing or putting a huge investment into a new product that are requested by clients, it's always good to just do a market research. I always insist on that, that it is important to do a market research whenever you're doing a new product launch, even when developing a new product, because you need to meet or even understand the need of these people. Design thinking, for example, just using design. People might be requesting you for a product, but then how do you even package it? How do you ensure that this product meets the need of those people? It's unless you talk to them. It's unless you put yourself in their shoes. So through the design thinking of using human-centered design, which is also one critical aspect of conducting research, it informs and helps save you in terms of resources that would otherwise, you might develop a product that might not even meet the need of the people that you intend for them. So I agree, or I insist that it's always critical and important to conduct research, especially if you're able to. The other question is, once you've conducted this from Belita, once you've conducted a market research, what is the best way to implement that data into your business? What is the best way to implement the data into your business? Of course, before conducting market research, you've come up with an hypothesis, or probably developed an hypothesis, and probably even have a problem area, or you have a problem, a research problem that you need to solve or even meet at the end of the day. So usually, one thing that from a researcher that pains me is sometimes we collect very rich information, give it to clients, or even give it to people, and they don't implement it. They just shelve it. Yeah. So as a business, I think it's a matter of being strategic in terms of just the information that you've collected, and what does it mean to your business. Remember when we were going through the research process, those numbers, the indices, the findings, what does it mean to your business at the end of the day? Once we're able to answer the question, what it means to your business, then I'm very sure that we'll be able to answer the question Belita asked, which is, what is the best way to implement it? It can be either through, it can be as simple as increasing in terms of your communication strategy, or maybe just using more targeted information, depending on the problem that you defined before the beginning of your research. I hope, Belita, that answered your question. I'm seeing Louis. Louis is asking a question. An existing business that seeks to grow, as an existing business that seeks to grow, what aspect of market research should one focus? Because I believe that most mistakes in business are made when the business took off without proper research. How can we retrace her step? So I'm not sure if I get you clearly, but as an existing business, the aspect of research to focus on, as mentioned, maybe if I get you clearly, as mentioned earlier when we were introducing through the research process, one very critical area, the first part is problem definition. Yeah. Once we are able to define what our problem is, that would then guide us in terms of even the research that we are conducting. So if we've defined the problem, it should be easy for us to come up with information or even in findings on how to solve that problem. So I believe in terms of just answering your question, the area that we should always focus on first is understanding the problem that we have and the potential, or probably how do we then, once we understand the problem that we have, then we can ask ourselves the question of how do we need to develop solutions that then would meet or would be able to help us solve the problem that we have. If we focus on that, then I think we should easily be guided in terms of how we conduct our research. Okay, this is more of a comment, how the session is helpful, because we're seeing one of us is producing baby dresses blindly without research. So research would be critical in terms of informing on some of the products that has been on ground without sales. So you're having a dead stock, for example, the stock has been there and not moving. Why? You then start asking the question why. So in this case, for example, the problem is I'm having a dead stock. Why? Why am I having a dead stock? So we start with the problem definition. So from a literature point of view, is it because I'm having competitors who are producing a similar product? Are they pricing it cheaper than me? Are they producing a quality product than me? Or even with who I think my target is, that is not what they're looking for. Yeah? From the customers that I interact with, are they not even looking for baby products? So in that case, those are just some of the simple, quick questions that you can ask yourself around it. What percentage, this from Agustina, what percentage of market research should one, what percentage of market should one research to have quality information to work with? This is a very good question. Thank you for asking this. So basically, if I interpret this correctly, is in terms of the sample size, yeah? How do you determine your sample size? Enumeration of all the people, probably your clients, can be very expensive and can be very time consuming. So then you need to draw a sample. A sample simply means a representation of who your customers are. If drawn scientifically, can be very, very efficient, but also if not drawn well, can really lead to wastage of resources. So usually when conducting market research, for quantitative analysis, a number as small as 30 is considered sufficient enough whenever you're doing a quantitative analysis. 30 is already is usually, from a statistical point of view, sufficient enough for you to do statistical or use statistical technique when analyzing the feedback. But qualitatively, there's no definite number in which you can draw, or qualitative number that you can consider when speaking to your customers. Just bear in mind that whenever you're doing qualitative analysis or qualitative research, always have a kind of a control group. If you're speaking to, for example, users of your product, people who buy your product mostly, always consider a competitor product, because it gives you the other side of the story. If, for example, I'm speaking to people who are loyal to my product, it's just advisable from a qualitative perspective that also try to get a feedback or strike a balance by speaking to people who are loyal to my biggest competitor. So through that, I'm able to see the variable aspect or have a variability in terms of the feedback that you are getting. So I hope that answered the question percentage. There's no particular defined percentage, but the particular number for quantitative is usually 30. Qualitative, I say, just try to always strike a balance between having a control group on whom you're talking to or whom you're getting feedback from. Yes, and I think these are the questions that have been posted by us. I'll hand over to Omolabake. I hope this answer or this session has been resourceful to us. Over to you, Omolabake.
Thank you very much, George. It was quite insightful, and thank you for the fantastic session. So I want to believe that those who have questions to ask had already done that. And if you still have pending questions, please do well to send them to Fashionomics Help Desk at cchub.africa. I don't know if you can spare extra 5-10 minutes to take questions, but if you don't drop them now, I'm afraid that we just have to move on. So thank you very much, George, for the fantastic session. Just quick announcement. Please be notified that we'll have another session tomorrow, and tomorrow's session is going to be coming a bit earlier. Tomorrow's session is going to be at 11 a.m. GMT to 12:30 GMT. So it's not the same time as we had today and as we have been having previously. So it's coming earlier. I will send a notification to the WhatsApp group so that we can bear this in mind and we can join the call when we need to join. The additional case studies and resources will be shared with you also in the WhatsApp group for you to catch up with. Today, we will not be having networking sessions whereby we share our learning and key takeaways. We'll do that tomorrow after tomorrow's session. So please let's note that. And if you have not filled in the midline survey, please ensure that you do that before the close of business today. I will be sharing the link down in the chat box for you to catch up with it. Please do so. I discovered that just a handful have filled in the midline survey. Thank God that we had today, we talked about research. So if you go through the midline survey, it's for us to get feedback from you on how far the session has been. So if you don't fill in the midline survey, there is no how we'll know if we're doing well or if we need to actually improve something or we need to help you in some aspect of the program. So please, let's ensure that you fill in the midline survey. Please fill in the feedback. If you are having issues with Moodle, please do well to send an email to Fashionomics Help Desk at CC Fashionomics Help Desk at Fashionomics Africa. Please note this is very important. We will get in touch with you and we'll rectify any issue you're having on Moodle platform. At this point, since we don't have any other questions to answer or to attend to rather, I think I would like to call it a day. Okay, Ruwaida Soliman, what exactly is the challenge? Okay, you said you didn't fill in the survey because you only joined the last few weeks. Please just go ahead to fill in the ones that you attended. Then there's also an aspect for you to feel that you did attend the session. So yes, no harm. Please go ahead to fill in the ones that you attended. And the ones that you didn't attend, just indicate that you did attend the class. That's well noted. Like I said the other time, if you have issues or you need to access the Moodle platform, please do well to send us an email at Fashionomics Help Desk at cchub.africa, and we'll do well to respond to you and attend to your queries. Please note again that tomorrow's session is going to be coming a bit earlier than we used to have, meaning that tomorrow's session is going to start at 11 a.m. GMT to end at 12:30 GMT. That's 12 noon West Africa time to 1:30 West Africa time. Please let's note that. That's 2 p.m. East Africa time to 4:30 East Africa time. So please let's note this in preparation for tomorrow. Not to worry, I will share details in the chat box. For CAT, it's going to be 1 p.m. Buleben Kosi for CAT, 1 p.m. your time to 2:30 p.m. Please note that. For EAT, 2 p.m. your time, that's 2 p.m. your time to 4:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. rather. So please let us note this while preparing for tomorrow's session. Thank you very much, guys. We'll catch up on WhatsApp. Like I mentioned the other time, there will be no networking session today. Networking session will take place tomorrow, after tomorrow's session. So please bear this in mind as you prepare for tomorrow's session. If you're having challenges accessing Moodle, please do well to send us an email at fashionomicshelpdesk@cchub.africa, and we'll be more than happy to respond to you. I'm happy to inform you that we already have 5 sessions uploaded on Moodle right now, so please do well to visit Moodle to catch up with the 5 previous sessions, and before the end of this week, we'll upload more videos. Please be on the lookout for that. All hyperlinked materials and additional resources on today's deck will be shared with you in the chat box for you to review and catch up with. Thank you very much, everyone. And I hope you have a pleasant evening or afternoon or whatever it is at your different time zones. We will be calling it a day at this point in time. So do have a pleasant evening. And once again, thank you, George. Thank you for the fantastic session. Much, much appreciated. If you're having attendance issues or you are afraid that you mistakenly you did not name your device accordingly, please send an email to fashionomicshelpdesk@cchub so that we can attend to you. But if you don't, I'm afraid that if you attend all the sessions and your device is not properly named, you'll be marked absent. Thank you very much. We have how many sessions to go? We've done today the 10th session. Tomorrow is going to be the 11th session, meaning that we are gradually winding down and preparing for our exams. So start preparing because exams are near. Thank you very much, everyone. Do have an amazing evening. Bye.